My name is Dr. Mrs. Modupe Ajayi, a registered animal scientist from the University of Ilorin. I live at Luwo, Egbeda town area in Ibadan. It's a remote community filled with love, peace, and harmony. I am a baker. I bake for a living. I have a daughter named Didinlolu Ajayi. She was born July 22nd, 2017, born a neurotypical child, and she was growing as such. At 5 months of age, I noticed something was wrong. There was an excessive sleeping pattern she had. Initially, I felt okay as a mother. It availed me the opportunity to do other things, and I really praised her for it. But on a particular day, she slept excessively throughout the whole day, and I knew something was wrong. I took her to a nearby pharmacist, and he told me she was okay. But the mother's instinct within me knew something was wrong. So I took her to the hospital where I gave birth to her, where the doctor confirmed she had meningitis. And I said, meningitis? But not living in the north, right in Ibadan here, how come? So they placed her on antibiotics for like 7 days. Like I told you, she was sleeping excessively. When on the antibiotics, she opened her eyes, bloodshot, and didn't close them. So after 7 days, the doctor referred us to a laboratory to run a test called transfrontal scan. And there it was told she had water in the brain. Water in the brain? I told the lab attendant, how come? How did it get there? He simply said, Madam, your daughter has hydrocephalus. Take her to the doctor. He would explain much better. And that's how the journey began.
My name is Muyiwa Majekodumi. I like to describe myself as a proud parent of a young man. I have 4 children, but I'm very proud. I'm proud of all of them, but I'm a proud parent of a young man I named BJ, which stands for Baba Juno, not Bolaji, as everybody thinks. He was born with a condition called Down syndrome. So I'm a proud father of that young man. And BJ, incidentally, is 33 years old. I used to run a madhouse called Jazzo. Let me put it this way. I think the madhouse called Jazzo used to run me. So, but I shut it down in 2002. And it's been a journey of sorts, from one end of town to another, one profession to another, one activity to another. The journey started when I got married in 1987. My son was born over a year later, in October 1988, 24th, at Juroshole Hospitals on Allen Avenue. Came out, looked different. Large forehead, tiny nose, stubby fingers, slanty eyes. So something different about him. But I didn't know what. I'd never heard about Down syndrome before. Never in my life had I heard of Down syndrome. But the doctor, I remember his name, Dr. Egejuru, lovely man, said, your son has Down syndrome. I don't know what that is. And unfortunately, in 1988, I don't think there was internet. We were not internet compliant in 1988. So I didn't know what it was, but I managed to get a book somehow and I read about it. And after reading about it, a few months later, I said, look, this is a gift that God has given me. This is a challenge. And I don't know why I was given, but I was given for a purpose. So I didn't know what that purpose was until years later. As we speak, this is part of that purpose that's unfolding.
My name is Toyin Falugi Ekezi. I'm a wife and a mom and an entrepreneur and an author and so much, content producer. But the most important role I feel I play is as a wife and a mother. So I'm married to my best friend, and I guess it's a marriage made in heaven. We have our challenges, but it's easier when you're on the same page, I have two amazing children, Ugo, who is 7, and he's a really, really good big brother to his sister, Simone. She just turned 6 in August, and she is our legend in the household. She is our miracle baby, and my children are really the ones who have changed the path of life, or maybe I didn't know my life would go down that way, but God's plan for me was through these children, and life really took a change, especially when I had my second child, Simone. I had both of them abroad in America, and with them both were fine, normal deliveries, etc. And when Simone was born, it was normal, nothing weird going on. And when we came back to Nigeria, she was about 4 months old. It was Christmas time, and we were just happy to be back, you know, after giving birth and going through all that wahala, and be back, and everybody to meet this new daughter of ours. But about that same time, I started to notice that she was perspiring a lot, really bad, a lot of sweat. But I thought maybe she's just acclimating to Nigeria. You know, this place is fire sometimes. And I thought, okay, let me just continue to observe her. But on a particular day, I was giving her some medicine, and she began to choke. And continued to choke. And continued to choke. So I had to administer first aid. Luckily, I had done some baby, CPR first aid. I was able to, sort that out. But then from there, took her straight to the clinic for observation, just to make sure that there wasn't any repercussions from that incident. It was really scary. I just said, you know what, let me just tell the pediatrician. I brought up my concerns about the sweating and the lethargy. We had a discussion, and she looked at her and was just kind of blurted out, I want to test her for Down syndrome. And I was a bit taken aback. I was like, but she doesn't look like she has Downs. She said she knows, but she does have the slanted eyes. But my husband was there, and I was like, look at my husband's eyes, look at her eyes, it's the same eye. That was the only thing that may have hinted. I said, okay, no problem, let's go ahead and do the test. And she said it would take about 2 weeks to get the results, but she called within like 5 days. Once I got that call, I just knew. I said, this baby has Downs, because there's no reason why the doctor would call me early. So the doctor called, said, she didn't want to say anything over the phone. I'm like, clearly it means that she has Down syndrome. If you're saying you don't want to tell us the news over the phone. So we now went to the clinic, and she told us and said she has Down syndrome.
A journey of purpose, a journey filled with pain, a journey filled with grief, but it will have a happy ending. So we took her down to UCH, where she was admitted, and we were told she would have a VP shunt, a ventricular shunt, whereby a long tube is inserted from the brain into the abdomen. Now, what is hydrocephalus? Hydrocephalus in a layman's language is simply excessive accumulation of brain fluid, and which exerts pressure on the brain. Invariably, it damages the brain neurons, the brain tissues, and causes a lot of damage to the brain. And we got money, we had the operation done. It was successful on that day, but 4 days after, it failed. And we were told she had infection. The shunt had to be removed, and she had to be treated for infection, sepsis to be precise. That's when the real journey started. She was severely infected. She almost died. We ran different tests upon tests, different medications upon different medications, and it looked so bleak. All hope was gone. All hope was lost. Due to the infection, there was a rapid build-up of the brain fluid. Why? Because nothing could be done. There was no means of removing the water from the brain at that time. So due to that, the pressure was exerted on the brain predisposed her to seizures. She had seizures, And from then, she had spastic quadriceps. Her muscle tones, everything was rigid. Her hands were rigid, her feet were rigid, every part of her body was rigid. She was in a coma for 7 days. We couldn't do anything. All we could do was just hope against all hope. The doctors kept on treating her, told me, "Madam, your daughter is severely infected. It's just grace, and grace alone that can save her." We had many children like that during our time who died. She was still surviving. The doctors tried all their best, kept on at it, saw to it that she came out of it. And we thank God that she did come out of it. But it was a long journey. A long, long journey. I started reading up about hydrocephalus during that period. As a researcher, I was used to that. I read up about it. Anytime the doctors and nurses came, anytime I heard a new word, I would always Google it up. Always keep myself abreast, wanting to know more. I was puzzled myself. How did the water get there in the first place? Why? Was the question I kept on asking. A small child, a young baby of 6 months, having to undergo a brain operation. The doctors told me that there was nothing I could do. She had to move out of the infection. She had to get over the infection before another operation could be done. And that was the only hope we had. So, she was being treated day after day, months after months. And eventually, we got over the infection. And we started prepping her for another brain operation. This was done in March. After the second brain operation, I thought I had seen everything until she had abdominal distension. And then the doctor said, "Madam, we don't know I hope she survives this." That the build-up of the brain fluid that built up in the brain, after the operation, everything was deposited in the abdomen at once. So we started treating her for that again. And I was like, God, from one thing to another thing, we should survive this. I'd lost hope, I must confess. Hope was gone, but we kept on hoping against all hope. So they treated her for the abdominal distension all over again. And we won. She came out of it. But by that time, the accumulation of the brain fluid had caused some damages. Our optic nerves were damaged. She couldn't see. Our muscle tones were rigid. She couldn't move them. And then we were referred to a physiotherapist. We were referred to an ophthalmologist for observation. Then they sent her to ear, nose, and throat too, where it was told that she couldn't hear. Sincerely, it was how my world came crashing down. I wasn't myself. She couldn't say anything when we left. She couldn't hear. Her muscles were rigid. She couldn't move them. She was just like a figure one. And that's how I brought her home.
So I became so close to him. Very, very close. Took him everywhere. When I say, I mean everywhere. Even when he was a baby. I remember one time, I went to wash my car, my old jalopy then. I took BJ along, you know. He must have been about 1.5, 2 years old. He wasn't walking there, but I used to, you know. At the car wash, I remember there was another car wash outside the Unilag by the petrol station. That was the place. I noticed from the corner of my eye, there was a man looking at me. I pretended not to see him at first, you know. But eventually, and I knew he wanted to talk because he could look at me, was looking at me so curiously. And eventually he walked up to me and said, "You're a strange father." He said, "This is your son." He said, "You are strange." I said, "Why?" He said, "You love this boy." I said, "Yes." He says, "You know what?" I said, "No." He said, he's lived in an apartment block for about 6, 7 years. And there's a flat above him, and each time there's some funny noise, you know, he has the sound of chairs and tables being dragged, and you know, and then one day there was some commotion in the compound, and some child ran out. Maybe he said about 7 or 8 years old. And there was so much commotion, and the parents too, or whoever ran out after him and dragged him back to the house. He said he's lived in that complex for 7, 8 years. He hasn't seen that child ever. So he was shocked that I could be seen with my son. I said, there's something strange about this one. I mean, he's my son. Then eventually I began to understand why, because each time I went out, funny looks, nobody wants to go near him. There was so much stigmatization. It was as if, what this condition was contagious. So nobody wanted to, I wasn't embarrassed. I was embarrassed for them, not for me. This is my son. I have accepted him. They say life gives you lemons. What do you do with lemons? You make lemonade. And that's what I decided to do with my son. Now, each day has been a step-by-step journey, one rung of the ladder at a time. And it's been a paradox. It's been painful as well as been pleasurable. And sometimes in between, But it's been very tough. It's been tough for me as a father. It's been tough for me as a father to a son with Down syndrome, because anywhere you went, nobody wanted to. Even up to now, I've been looking for work for him. I mean, when I say work in the school, working as what, whatever you can get him to do. Is it to empty dustbins? Is it to work with the children? Because he loves children. I've been to 2 or 3 schools and said, we don't know what the parents won't like it. Why? Because of his condition. The other day, I was speaking to somebody around, because BJ loves to sing. You probably heard him singing, or watched him singing. The other day, 3, 4 days ago, I spoke to somebody who runs a band. I said, look, my son loves to sing. Why don't you allow him to? Oh, initially, he was excited about the idea of my son being able to play the percussions and then sing. When I now told him, why don't you allow him to join your band? This was conversation on WhatsApp. Conversation stopped. Shikina, full stop.
So it was really kind of shocking and unexpected, and my husband cried, I cried, because we knew only what we had heard, or the small of what is out there, not that I'd been exposed to anything. So you just have an idea of, this child is going to be, is not going to have any good quality of life. They're going to be stupid. They're going to be all these things you hear about them being imbeciles, or that they won't walk, they won't talk, etc. You hear. But this pediatrician, God bless her, didn't start our journey off like that. She was like, it's not the end of the world. This is what you do next. You do this, you do, and she just gave us a list of. So we didn't even have time to start thinking in that mindset. She set us up on a path of being proactive immediately. And what that highlights to me is that is very rare for someone in the medical community to have that outlook. But I wish here in Nigeria, yes, but also in the abroad, it's unusual, because the first things they tell you is what the child won't be able to do. A week later, we had the echo, just before she was 5 months. And that was really what floored us. Not the diagnosis of Down syndrome, it was the heart failure diagnosis. Literally, diagnosis was heart failure cardiomyopathy. Yes, they put all the medical terms of ASD, AVSD, all those things, but basically she had one ventricle that was not working, and she had holes in her heart. She had valves that were not fully closing. So the doctor was like, he doesn't understand how her condition can be so severe, but she's not presenting. Because all the children he had seen presenting similar symptoms would have been super lethargic. I was just saying she's just a little lethargic, and would present gray and blue in color. There was gray in skin color and blue around, and she wasn't presenting like that. Which again is why I call her the miracle baby, because she was going about her business not knowing that there was a ticking time bomb. So we went back to America. Literally within a week, my mom, myself, and Simone, we landed the next day, got changed, went to the hospital, and literally, like within a few hours of landing, we were at the hospital and they didn't allow us to go back home. We were there, they observed her, and she was not well enough for the open heart surgery. They said if we do the surgery now, she's going to die. So first of all, they had to get her well enough to be able to have the life-saving surgery. So at 6 months, she had the open heart surgery. So it was really strange in that they came to say, okay, you know, the day before, I think 2 days before that, they will schedule her for the surgery. And we were ready. You know, we prayed. We had the priest come and bless her in case. And I prayed. And I said to God, as they were coming to take her, I said, you know what, God, if it's her time, don't let it be her time, let it be my time. Take me, not her. That was my chant. Take me, not her. Take me, not her. Take me, not her. Take me, not her.
It hasn't been easy. There have been times that we had no money. There have been times that I had nothing to take care of her. There are many times then that I felt like running away. I felt like just waking up and running away from everything. Yes, I don't lie about it. Even on my baking page, I tell people that baking is what saved me from suicide. I once felt like I could just leave everything because it was just so overwhelming. The time she'll cry and I'll be like, what do I want to do? I've done everything I can do. What else should I do? And she keeps crying and crying and crying and crying and I'm like, what should I do? And it's just me and me alone.
I told you my wife was away for years. I didn't work. I was ill. I remember I worked with a friend of mine, but I lost my self-esteem. I'm saying this for the first time because I developed a thyroid problem in 2001. In fact, it was my brother-in-law in England who diagnosed it simply by me talking to him and giving him the symptoms. And he says he's 99%, I remember his words, he's 99% sure that it's my thyroid, I should go for a test. And it was my thyroid problem. So I had shakes, I was stammering, I couldn't stand the heat, I'd faint, go to church, I'd faint in church. Noise, I would faint from noise. In fact, 3 months before I showed, I stopped coming to Jazzo. There was one night Sheyi Sholagbade was here and I was upstairs. I had to come down and say, Sheyi, you are disturbing me. You're disturbing me. Please, this is the last time you're playing. I beg. Noise became I couldn't stand noise. Even up to now, noise still gets to me. So it was a very humbling and humiliating experience. I lost my self-confidence. I lost self. It wasn't a funny experience. I lost friends. A lot of friends thought I was crazy. Then come BJ, who now, that was a challenge. I mean, you go to a place, you sit down somewhere, maybe go to a restaurant or fast food joint, and everybody's staring, or some people move away. You know what I mean? They want to. Oh, don't touch me. Don't come in. I don't argue. I don't say anything. But is there a problem? They should be more embarrassed than I am, because you don't understand what I'm going through as a father of a child with syndrome. My ego was boom. It's like being hit with a football in your groin. It's the kind of you see that you can't shout. You go. That's the way I felt. For about 8, 10, 12 years. And then you're wondering, what's the next thing in line for your son? You're not worried about the other children. You're not worried about them. You're worried about him. Because you're asking yourself, what's going to happen to him after you go?
New Year, it was 2019. Doctor was pleased and said, look, we're good. Just make sure if you're going, bring her back every year for an echo. And literally March 2019, we were back fully in Nigeria, and getting settled in, had her own social life. She started in the same creche as Ugo. She just adapted so well. By this time, when we were back in Nigeria, she had started some therapy as that summer, not immediately, around like June, July time of 2019. She started therapy with a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lady, Dr. Helen Wanze, who is a therapist, and she's actually blind. Yeah, she's a legend. She took on Simone's therapy herself, full-on speech. Once we could move on a bit from the PT and the OT, she focused on the speech with her. But so every day, these people will come to the house, but Ugo wouldn't be able to come and attend. He'll always be like, oh, okay, Simone is going upstairs. I guess he's to play downstairs. So one day he was just really angry, and he's like, Mommy, it's not fair now. All these people come and play with Simone every day, and why am I not allowed to play? It's not fair. So I had to explain to him, hey, you know, it's not play, because your sister has Down syndrome. Down syndrome, what's that, Mom? Hey, I had to explain to him what Down syndrome was. I didn't do a good job of explaining Down syndrome to my son. We explored online, we found some decent books, but I had an issue with the fact that they were all Caucasian characters, and then you can't continue with a character because they're one-offs. There's no series, you know, there's no continuous story that allows you to live with and be with and love and identify with a character. So one day, a friend of mine who I didn't know had a child with Down syndrome, it was my sister that told me, you know, I'd been out of the country for 3 years. So she now came over and we were gisting, had a very emotional heart-to-heart. So Ugo, I think, came up, showed her the book. I was like, oh, Mommy made this for us, da, 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 da. And she was like, Tonya, are you serious? You're just going to keep this to yourself? What about us people out there? Don't you think you should share this? And so that now got me thinking, hey, wait, do you mean I can actually do something with this thing? I was directly going from a need, so much so that even for Simone, I had put together a board book, like a baby board book. So I had printed fruits and vegetables from Nigeria, got pieces of paper, stuck them, wrote in black pen and paper, and stapled and created a homemade book, of which my sister was like, aren't you going to do something with this? This is great. But it's for Simone now. She's like, but what about other people? So this was the dialogue that was happening. Okay. And I just started to sit down and think about more stories and write. And I wrote about 13 stories. So I published 4. And that's how the Ugo and Simpson book series was started. I know that I've added value to someone's life.
When I brought her home, as part of the symptoms of hydrocephalus, there's this excessive crying. You won't know what is wrong with the child. Then she can cry for like 3 hours, non-stretch. She would cry and cry. Everybody in the area would come in and say, what's wrong with her? Give her this, give her that. But I knew what was going on. It's like something just triggers in their brain and they just keep on crying without, they can't stop themselves. So she would cry endlessly on and on every day. So at a point in time, it got to my husband and he was like, he can't take this anymore. That I could just find a home to put her. I should find a home to put her where I could go and see her over the weekend. And I said, where would I find a home to put a 7-month-old, 8-month-old child? How? I was angry, we fought, and he insisted that, okay, if you're going to insist on taking care of her, she would be your cross. I tell mothers nowadays, I said, I have like a network of mothers that I counsel. Some of them tell me that, oh, my husband does not do this. I said, mother, please, see yourself as the only one in this journey. If someone wants to join you, they may join you. And if they don't want to join you, please move on. and they take care of this, it takes of this, it takes of the other children. I said, if it takes of the other children, all well and good. Then you take care of the child with disability. And that's what I've been doing. My husband takes care of the other children. Yes, he does. And I take care of my child with disability. I ensure she gets everything that she needs. Even though I have to deny myself of every other thing, I make sure she gets what she needs. What she consumes every month far outweighs what the other two girls can use it in 3 months. And like I said, it's always been, give us our daily bread.
I shot Jazzle down in November 2001. The last Sunday in November, 24th of November. That was the last concert with Nika Davis, Dede Mabek. Oh, they were all here. Everybody was here. So I gave it all up. And after all that, everything went boom. But coming up slowly. It's been tough. I'm not ashamed to share my experience. It's to give other people encouragement. Because I know other people who've lost jobs, have lost opportunities, and they're going through so much pain. My advice to them is you dare not give up. You have children. People like Beat who need your presence, who need your guidance. You dare not give up.
So the greatest barrier is not the child themselves. The greatest barrier is society. I always say that special needs children are not special. It's the rest of the society that's special because we are the one that put the constraints and limits on them. When a child is born, you don't know what they're going to be, right? You don't know what their possibilities are. But with special children, you are told what they won't do, what they can't do. How do you know? So I say that they are not special. We, society, with our prejudice and our limits, are special. We have to make more room for the diversity of the human mind, of the human brain and function, and realize the classifications are all cultural constructs. So I've invested everything, literally cloth on my back, to make sure that I can now, in these foundational years, do as best I can to build her skills in order that later on she can benefit from an independent life.
I don't know if it's the beliefs we've had about disability over time. Now, we are having more advocacy about disability. We are coming out. In those days, I wouldn't even come out and talk about my daughter. I wouldn't even let my neighbor know. I would keep her locked in the room. I wouldn't show her to anyone. Thanks for disability advocacy that is going on now, of which I am one of them. We are proud to come out and say, our children have a right to live. Our children are born like other neurotypical children. Disability is just a condition that predisposes them to require extra help and assistance. That's just it. So why should we stigmatize them? Why should we abandon them? Why should we think them less as a child that they are? We are telling the society that this is what we want for our child. We are becoming the voice for our children. We are becoming a voice for other children too.
Accept, educate, inspire. Society is beginning to change. The catalyst to that change was probably in 2001 when the Down Syndrome Association, the Stroke Foundation started. With every subsequent year, we found more parents coming out. More parents were coming out to ask for advice. Because to top it all, a lot of these children are born with heart condition. So we help raise funds to send them abroad. And that's what the Down Syndrome Foundation was and is still doing. You and I are catalysts. This documentary, I hope, will also act as a further catalyst to changing people's perceptions and opinions about these wonderful children. These children are like flowers. They have a role to play in society, once given the chance. My duty is just simply to sow the seed. Sow whatever seeds I can and allow it to germinate and allow society to come and harvest whatever they want to harvest.
I was fortunate to get a school for her where she attends with regular kids too, a crèche. And it has really been of help. The brain is like a sponge. It absorbs whatever you give it. When she started schooling, my daughter came back home and started humming. She started humming happy birthday. We are dealing with the brain here. It's a sensitive thing and it requires time. While you are waiting for the brain of your child to recover fully, get a life for yourself. Do something you know that will give you joy. That's what baking is to me. I love baking. I enjoy it. It's very therapeutic for me.
A young man here in Nigeria who has Down syndrome, he has a job, he's a barber, he drives, he's married, and it's possible. That's here in Nigeria. When you look in abroad, they've started putting more things in place for vocational training. So, because what you find out here and, for example, in the UK, there's a lot of stuff for the younger ones. But as they get into the teen years and later teen years, it's kind of a drop-off, right? What do you do with them from 15, 16? So understanding, okay, vocations need to kick in. Vocationally train them. Some go to university. Some do, they graduate and they get on with their lives. I know she will thrive, I just don't know what she will be. I know that I think she's going to be a Special Olympian. She's incredibly strong, like she can drag me. She's incredibly strong, she's incredibly flexible. She started gymnastics a couple of weeks at FOS Creative. It's like a little creative center in Lekki, and the owner is a SENCO, Special Educational Needs Counselor. So they're set up it's an inclusive creative center. So you have neurotypical children mixing with, children with learning difficulties or behavioral issues, and it works because that's how they were set up. She can be anything. In her school, one of the ladies says she's going to be, a fashion designer or something like that. That's what she sees for her. She does love makeup, fashion, all those things. She really is. So it's allowing your child to have the freedom to explore who they are. Yes, it would be great to have a doctor. It would. But it would also be great. It would be great to have a Special Olympian. It would be great to have a teacher. It would be great to have a teacher.
My son is a gift. I'm a caretaker. I said earlier on, your children are not your children. They come through you, but not from you. We are caretakers of these wonderful children. Both those ones that are not even biologically mine. God has a purpose for each and every one that comes my way. It's my duty to impart, to inspire, to inform, to love, to accept, to educate. I'm not going to live forever. We're all not going to live forever. But he has siblings. I have hope that his siblings will be there for him. I trust they will be there for him because I have given them, the Bible says, train the child up in the way he should go and he will not depart from it. His siblings, who are younger than he, know that they have a responsibility to him. So my hope is in the future. You will see my son larger than life and you want to be part of it. Everybody will now want to identify with his success. I'm counting on that and let him be who he wants to be. It's all about him. I've done my time, I've paid my dues, and it's to give my life to BJ and kids with Down syndrome and spreading the light of God's kingdom. I hope I've made sense.
Don't go this road alone. That's what I would say. There's no shame. Let go of the shame. And it takes more than you to look after this child. Reach out to family, reach out to friends. Get them involved in this journey along with you. If your family rejects the child, find the friends that don't reject the child. Find the people who can help you and support you. And it's not just financially. We often think, it's about money. It's not. get them understanding what the diagnosis is, get them understanding the strategies to help your child, and you support and you nurture this child together.